a night of triumph for the UK's right-wing Reform Party.
Every one of you who voted for change.
Winning the parliamentary seat of Runcorn and Helsby from the ruling Labour Party in a by-election triggered after the sitting MP punched a constituent. It was the thinnest of margins, just 6 votes, but one obliterating a majority of 15,000 that Labour got in the general election just last year. The result reflecting a surge of votes for reform in England's local.
Reform UK's stunning comeback, 2 by-election wins that should have Labour sweating. Let's be absolutely clear about what just happened. While Westminster was busy doing what Westminster does best, which is talking about itself, Reform UK went quietly about the business of winning elections. Not 1, 2. And if you think that is just a minor blip in the grand tapestry of British politics, then pull up a chair, because you have clearly not been paying attention. Welcome to British Coffers, the channel where we cut through the noise, the spin, and the carefully curated press releases to give you British politics as it actually is. If you are new here, subscribe now. Hit that bell. Because on this channel, we do not do watered-down political commentary. We do the real thing. Now, back to reform. 5 councils held by-elections this week. 5 seats up for grabs across England. And when the dust settled and the ballot papers were counted, the picture that emerged was not one that the established parties are going to be putting on their Christmas cards. Reform UK took 2 seats. Labour took 1. The Greens held 1. The Conservatives managed to scrape 1 together. But here is the part that should make Keir Starmer's team deeply uncomfortable. Labour did not just fail to dominate. In some of these contests, they were being pushed into 3rd place by a party that, not too long ago, the political establishment was laughing off as a protest movement with a charismatic frontman and not much else. How the mighty have fallen. Let us start in Essex. Coggeshall Ward, Braintree District Council. Not exactly the kind of place that sets political pulses racing. A quiet ward, a by-election called after independent councillor Tom Walsh resigned for personal reasons after 6.5 years of service. He left with grace and dignity, as one does. And into that vacuum stepped Reform UK's Nathan Robbins. Now, the opposition said he had no chance. Those were not our words. That is what Reform's own councillors were saying the other side had told them. Sam Jernett, group leader of Basildon Borough Council, went straight to social media after the result and he was not shy about it. History was made, he wrote, and Nathan Robbins showed them. He did more than show them. He won. Robbins pulled in 30.7% of the vote. 554 votes in a contest where nearly half the ward actually turned out, which for a by-election is a number worth noting. A 47.2% turnout tells you that people in Coggeshall were not indifferent. They had something to say, and Reform was their vehicle for saying it. So where did that leave everyone else? Labour came third, with just over 20% of the vote. They gained a few percentage points on their last showing, granted, but coming third in an Essex ward is not exactly the triumphant return to English heartlands that the party has been promising since it scraped into government. The Conservatives took 17.2%, shedding more than 12 percentage points since 2023. 12 points. In 2 years. The Liberal Democrats barely registered, pulling in just over 3%. And at the top of the pile, in a seat that had previously been held by an independent, stood Reform UK. It is worth pausing here to appreciate the geography of all this. Coggeshall sits in the Witham parliamentary constituency. That is Priti Patel's seat. Shadow Secretary for Foreign Affairs, former Home Secretary, one of the more recognisable faces in the Conservative Party. And yet even in her own backyard, the Conservatives are hemorrhaging support to reform at a rate that should be keeping Conservative campaign headquarters up at night. There is something almost poetic about it. Not kind, not gentle, but certainly poetic. If you are finding this as fascinating as we do here at British Coffers, then make sure you are subscribed. We track these shifts week by week, ward by ward, and we do not let any of it slide past without scrutiny. Hit subscribe and stay in the conversation. Now let us zoom out and look at the full picture of the week, because Coggeshall was not operating in isolation. 5 by-elections. 5 different corners of England telling 5 slightly different stories that nevertheless add up to the same broader narrative. Spittal Ward in Tamworth, Staffordshire. Hextable in Sevenoaks, Kent. Thrupp in Stroud, Gloucestershire. And Merton in County Durham. Each one a small window into the shifting loyalties of the British electorate, and collectively, something considerably more significant than the sum of their parts. The Greens, it must be said, held their seat in Stroud. That is a respectable result in Gloucestershire, a county that has shown a consistent willingness to go green in recent years. The Greens are not a nationwide force in the same way as the larger parties, but they are consolidating where they are strong, and Thrupp was a hold, not a gain. Solid. Unremarkable in the grand sweep of this week, but solid. Labour won one. Just one. Which means that the party of government, the party that swept to a historic parliamentary majority less than a year ago, the party that told the British public it was ready to rebuild and restore trust, came out of a week of local elections with a single by-election win to its name. Now, context matters in politics. Local by-elections are not general elections. Turnout is lower, issues are more parochial, and national parties can be punished for things that have nothing to do with a local ward. But context can also be used as a comfort blanket, and Labour has been reaching for that blanket rather frequently of late. At some point, the comfort blanket becomes a strategic liability. The Conservatives won one seat as well, which is at least better than losing all 5. But for a party that is supposed to be in the business of rebuilding after the catastrophe of last July, winning one council by-election in a week where reform took 2 is not the kind of momentum story that gets written up in glowing terms. Kemi Badenoch has been speaking with considerable confidence about the direction of her party. These numbers would suggest that the electorate, for now, is not listening with equal confidence in return. And there is the rub. Reform is not just winning seats. They are winning the conversation about who speaks for a significant slice of the English electorate that feels let down, ignored, and increasingly impatient. The kind of voter who looked at the Conservatives and felt betrayed. Who looked at Labour and felt unconvinced. Who is not particularly interested in the Greens or the Liberal Democrats and who sees in Reform UK something that at least sounds like it is speaking their language, even when the specifics remain frustratingly vague. Whether reform can translate by-election momentum into sustained electoral power is a question that British politics is going to be wrestling with for some considerable time. Nigel Farage is not a man who lacks for confidence, and his party has demonstrated a genuine ability to absorb protest votes and turn them into actual seats, which is something his previous political incarnations struggled to do consistently. The infrastructure is more developed. The brand recognition is undeniable. And the public appetite for disruption has not gone away. But there are questions that reform will have to answer.
A night of triumph for the UK's right-wing Reform Party.
Every one
about
of
the
you
depth
who
of their
voted for
organisation,
change.
Winning the parliamentary seat of Runcorn and Helsby from the ruling Labour Party in a by-election triggered after the sitting MP punched a constituent. It was the thinnest of margins, just 6 votes, but one obliterating a majority of 15,000 that Labour got in the general election just last year. The result reflecting a surge of votes for reform in England's local elections.
That is something else entirely.
This is
the moment
phenomenal.
of accountability for
We've
reform
got
is
swings
coming.
going on.
The question is whether they will be ready for it.
Massive
For
swings
Labour,
from
the
Conservatives
questions
in
are different
Staffordshire.
but no less pressing.
Massive swings from
A
Labour
government that
happening
came
in
to power
Doncaster.
promising change has
happening,
found the economic inheritance
right here
more punishing
in
than
one
its
of their
pre-election
safest seats in
messaging
the
suggested
country.
it would be. The public,
Wins on a local
never the
level
most
come
patient
with
of
real
audiences,
power.
is beginning to
Councils
ask
are in
where the
charge of
promised
multi-million
improvement
pound
actually is.
budgets
And in
and
that vacuum of
services
visible
like managing
progress,
schools,
parties
maintaining
like Reform are
roads
very
and
happy to
collecting
park
waste.
themselves and start
And
collecting
even
votes
where
that
Reform
Labour
didn't
assumed
win,
was safely
it
in their
came
column.
close.
There is
Coming up
also a more
just over
fundamental issue that
700
Labour
votes short
strategists
in
will
the
be
mayoral
grappling
race
with,
in
which is
Doncaster,
this.
a Labour
The traditional
heartland.
coalition that
Well, listen
delivered a
to us, Mark,
landslide
with your
parliamentary
honours.
majority last
Where the
July was
council
never
went in
as
it with Labour,
ideologically
they just
unified
push
as
it
the
away.
vote share made it
And
appear.
the reform,
Tactical
listen,
voting,
where the
anti-conservative
Labour don't.
sentiment, and a
We want
desire
some
for
kind of a
change created a
change.
majority that
This-
looks more
this
fragile
right
with
here,
every passing
They
month.
set up a new
Holding that
reform
coalition
party.
together while managing
We'll
an
see how
economy
they
that
go.
refuses to cooperate
Voters
and a public
seem
that
willing
expected
to
faster
try
results
something
is the
new.
central challenge of this government. And by-elections, however modest their individual significance, are the canary in the coal mine. The British political landscape in 2025 is a genuinely complicated and genuinely fascinating place. The old two-party certainties have been under strain for years, and what this week's by-elections suggest is that the strain has not eased. If anything, it is intensifying. The electorate is restless, the established parties are all navigating their own internal contradictions, and Reform UK is demonstrating that it has moved beyond the phase where dismissal was an adequate response from its opponents. If you are watching this and thinking that it sounds like things are getting more interesting by the week, you would be absolutely right. And this is precisely why British Coffers exists. To track the shifts, name the patterns, and refuse to let the political class get away with the kind of comfortable vagueness that passes for analysis in too much of our media. Subscribe if you have not already, and share this with someone who actually cares about what is happening to British democracy, because those conversations matter, and so does the company you keep when you are having them. Reform bounced back from the setback in Gorton and they did it with a statement. 2 wins. 2 gains. A message to Labour, a message to the Conservatives, and a message to anyone who thought the party's moment had passed or could be conveniently managed into irrelevance. And we will be watching every step of what comes next. British politics never stays still for long. Neither do we. We will see you in the next one.